I wonder about the people that never turn their camera on, like Maxie or Michael or Brenda. Are they really here? Or are they just showing up, putting their name up, and pretending to be here? Why is Maxie not showing up? Why is Michael not showing up? What do they fear being known by? What's their story? Why doesn't Brenda ever come on camera? Well, she does once in a while. So much for the wonderment. You know, we start going to school when we're 5 years old. I don't know whether that's when we learn the alphabet or not, or whether they wait till the first grade. But we get at least 13 years of schooling. Then we go to college and we get another 4, 6, 8, 10 years, depending on what you're going into. And it's all about learning truth given to us by the educational system. And we're taught how to think, or at least repeat what we've been told on tests. And by the time we're 25 or 30, we know everything. Everything that we need to know to live, including any medical school education or engineering education. But really, we don't know shit. The sixth patriarch, the most memorable phrase he ever spoke, I think it's in the Platform Sutra of the sixth patriarch, is, or maybe somewhere else, the only truth is there is no truth. Beware even of this truth. When we use the mind to find ultimate truth, we'll never find it. All that we find are opinions or philosophies. And they change. Before Newton, probably the most complicated mathematics people knew was how to measure boards for building a house. Or things like that. Then came Galileo and Copernicus, finally Newton. We got some rudimentary ideas about how to understand motion and gravity and weights and forces, which served us well into the 20th century, when general relativity and quantum mechanics were born. Quantum mechanics talks about the reality or truth on the subatomic level. Well, relativity talks about it on a cosmic level. because it's only there that we see the high velocities and high gravities that deviate from Newtonian understanding. But since the 50s, physicists have been searching for a theory that combines quantum mechanics and relativity. And it's evaded us for 70 years. They'll find it. But then some new incongruities will grow out of that, and there'll be further development of the thought processes and probably ever more terrifying bombs out of it. But what would it be like to have no truth? No search for truth. No understanding. Or as Sansanim would say, to be dumb as a rock. You know, if you deliberately try it, to become stupid, dumb as a rock, and have no understanding of anything, you'll find at first it leaves you feeling very vulnerable because you don't have your mind to protect you anymore. You don't have any defenses. You don't have any tools to deal with others or the environment. You become a passive witness. And then we come to Advaita and certain kinds of Zen. And they say all knowledge is bullshit. Everything we see, every phenomena we experience, from the itching on our nose, to the perception of space around us, to the perception of time, to understanding the mechanics of our bodies, either as a sports advocate or as a physiologist looking at the body. The knowledge they provide us can be useful. But in the larger scheme of mankind and under the aspect of God, as Spinoza called it, sub specie aeternitas, it don't mean a thing. All that knowledge you're accumulating, Vesselina, to make you a doctor, don't mean a thing. Maybe it'll help you take care of some people and provide medications, but it's all tinkerings in the dark. As my friend Lee Worth, who I went to graduate school with together, and he taught as a professor of philosophy at Case Western Reserve for many years. He regarded all truth in science or any other place, engineering, as convenient fiction. You can make an atom bomb with it, maybe a hydrogen bomb. You can build a house with it. You can predict the weather to an extent with it, especially when you have supercomputers that generate different models. And then you can choose the model. By doing that, But what if you didn't have all of this armament to predict and protect yourself? What if you were absolutely naked to the elements? What if you were absolutely naked and vulnerable in the most profound way before everyone you meet, any audience that's there, where there's nothing you can hide? Who you are is immediately available to anybody that looks. You can't fool them into making them think you're something that you're not. What if every moment of the day you're ultimately totally vulnerable? And this is the position of Robert, Nisargadatta, Ramana. All knowledge, in a sense, is bullshit. It's convenient fiction. None of it describes truth. It describes phenomena from a point of view. And by phenomena, I mean everything that you experience. Everybody else here in satsang is an experience. You experience your own body as pressures and sensations. You perceive what appears to be space and objects in space. But let's say the Robert Adams among us see all this as a moving picture show. And we're mere witnesses of all of that which goes on. And the appearances just keep coming and coming and coming. But there's nothing substantial in them. They're all relatively empty. They pass. Even your life passes in a blinking of an eye. And if you have pets, those lives pass even quicker. And you're left knowing that everybody dies, everybody leaves. They're born, they grow up, they get sick, and they die. It's going to happen to you too. So within the context of all phenomena, being in a sense illusory, because it's always changing, nothing is fixed. Not even do we know ourselves 24 hours a day, because our consciousness flows during the day too, sometimes alert, sometimes not. And if we observe our consciousness, we see that all matter, all bodies, are nothing but objects in this consciousness. So what happens to us, or what happens to these external phenomena when we go to sleep? Ramana says they don't exist. Robert says that you don't exist either. You're just a phenomena to your own mind. That ultimately you're nothing at all. You take away all the phenomena in your life, including the experience of nothingness. And what are you? What is that sentience that perceives all phenomena? It itself is not an observable. It itself is not a phenomenon. If you look inward, you can only find darkness or nothingness or vastness or a vacuum or emptiness, the void, just space with nothing but darkness and perhaps light permeating the whole thing. You can find lots of phenomena in there. The many rooms of the mansion of consciousness. But they all disappear when you go to sleep. They certainly disappear when you die. At least that's your knowledge. So what is left over after all the phenomenology of the world and of your mind disappears? What's that recreates your body every morning? What's that gives birth to you after you wake up in the morning to a familiar environment every day? To a large extent, it's the mind that's been trained your entire life to see a certain kind of world. A world that's different from that of a Chinese peasant, for example, or an Aboriginal in Australia. And how can we become so certain of that which we know? It's very easy to become complacent in the world we recreate with our mind and our education. But what happens when we understand that everything we know is bullshit and temporary? And at the end of the day, this body is going to die, and with it, consciousness. In a sense, we're all ghosts dancing to some programming that society provides, that knowledge provides, and the collective knowledge through time changes. So the questions we ask changes through time depending upon the external situation of society and of your body within that society. But what if you are to really believe that you don't exist? You're only a happening in phenomena. And there is an invisible, non-sensual entity that you can't call an entity because that's a knowable. But there's something in another dimension, in another kind of existence that cannot be seen, heard, touched, tasted, that observes the phenomenal world and is the observer, who is ultimately untouched by what is observed. Now, it may feel touched because it identifies with the human body, but has certain kinds of certainties and certain kinds of educations and certain kinds of sensibilities and certain kinds of objects and histories, all of that. And insofar as this observer identifies with the phenomena, they take on the reality of that understanding. And if they do that, they're subject to the fear of disconnecting with that knowledge and of that entity disappearing with death. So, what to do, what to do, what to do? We can do like Mark does, observe and play with the energies as long as he's alive. Or Vasilina filling her day with medical nonsense. Or Maxi inventing ways to make money in cryptocurrency. Or perhaps we can just put on some headphones and listen to chanting all day. And when we do that, the sound grabs us. And we enter world after world after world, each more energetic, magnificent than the other. It's kind of a high quality entertainment. But even so, what of the witness? And what is the witness? Well, we know consciousness. And we know something when we turn our attention to ourselves, which is attention. Consciousness is vast, but normally we don't open ourselves up to be the one with the totality of consciousness. We usually focus on that within consciousness that we may consider real or important to us, and constantly move through life focused on a small array of phenomena. For example, the appearance of our house, or the search for a partner, or understanding some field of knowledge which is entirely vacuous. It allows us to make atomic bombs or to grow different kinds of crops. But is even that real? Is the non-sleep world real in any way? We can focus on feeling our bodies by doing sweeps of our bodies with our attention, starting with our feet and moving upwards through the body, noticing the different kinds of sensations, emotions, thoughts. We can watch our minds all day long as the thoughts come and go, the stream of thoughts. We can notice our distance from our thoughts, how the awareness, what isn't the same as the thoughts itself, and that we can be aware of our thoughts. So who is aware of the thoughts? Is awareness itself aware of the thoughts, or is there an entity within that's aware of consciousness and moves around in consciousness? Now, those that go into samadhi, there's different kinds. There's motionlessness samadhi, where we solely enter the witness. and become that witness, which is the state before existence, before phenomena. And there's nothing to be seen, heard, tasted, or touched. There's no cognition whatsoever. And we can be there for a few seconds, few minutes, few days, maybe even weeks. But if we stay there, we die. And then there's the kind of samadhi where you become one with the world, or I should say, with the entirety of phenomena, which hardly ever would think of as the world. We think of it as the phenomena that are immediately visible around us, which is a bubble. Maybe, depending on where you are, 50 feet away, the borders of it, or if you're out hiking, it could be a few dozens of miles away. And when you can open yourself up and be so vulnerable as to let the world in, this is another kind of awareness or room where our identity is no longer with the body and the mind, but with the totality of the world, the totality of that which we observe, the totality of the phenomena world, the manifest world. This is indeed a high state. Whether we attain it for a few seconds, or a few hours, or a few days, or off and on, every day, time after time after time, or we enter this state called Brahman that Robert talked about a lot. But what is this Brahman state? I don't know. How do we discuss it? I don't know. Does it show who we truly are? I don't know. What do we know for certain? For certain, we know nothing. For certain, we know nothing. And when we can embrace the ability or the state of knowing nothing and not be frightened of it, but to live within the simplicity of being incredibly stupid, where you're just a passive observer. And when you see the moon wink out, after it's been hit by a comet, and you see the explosion filling the sky, and you're unmoved and say, interesting, instead of diving for the deepest hole you can find. When you can have that kind of equanimity, where you watch a world war or a devastating pandemic, and you go through life sort of protecting your body because why not? It doesn't make that much difference. So get your shot, dig a bomb shelter, and prepare for the contingencies, but not be worked up about them. And some people would not even bother to prepare for the contingencies because they're ready to die. They're ready to leave this world where there's no stability, there's no safety. There's certainly no honor, very little integrity. What then of you? What do you know of yourself? So, what I'm trying to say is spirituality, at least the Robert type, It's not about understanding the world or anything in the world. It's about realizing that that world does not really touch you, that your origin is an observer of this world who briefly takes identification with what appears to be a body living in this ever-changing world. But in fact, if you look for yourself, there's nothing to find, nowhere to find it. There's no knowledge that applies to it. It's beyond existence altogether. And you can't just claim it's a different kind of existence, a different dimension, because that means that there's something existing in a different dimension. And you can't prove that. That would be an assumption. You can look for self-realization. But what if the self has no existence? In that case, it cannot be found. You can't find a non-existent self. But you can be a non-existent self. And when you discover you can be your non-existent self, that allows you to jump and dance and eat a banquet, because there's nothing else to do. You're already at the source. You're already at the source of the universe. You can go into the Brahman state, or you can go into the embedded human state of the mundane world. Or you can have God realization happen to you, like is unfolding for Mark. And perhaps it's beginning for Frank. Maybe others, maybe Enrique. It's where you're aware of certain phenomena within the phenomenal world that are deeper than anybody else talks about in your daily life. Talking about meeting God within as energy and light. And as an entity, it seems like an entity. Something that's alive. Something that has intelligence. But nothing more can be said about it, except you can feel and perceive its existence within you. Now, I had that experience, and it was monumental. It was world-changing for me, because instantaneously I was transported away from the mundane world of seekers and of ordinary human life, and transported to a relatively magical world of energies, and culminating in realizing that this entity inside of me was the life force within, part of which left the trunk of the life force, which was God, and is in me and is living through me. In that sense, I'm no different from the root from which it is flows, life flows, the life force. But I'm one phenomenal instantiation of the life force. And for me, it's okay to do nothing but feel that life force within me and have it make me feel exalted to feel the life force within. And then I recognize there's something else going on. I'm observing the life force. So consciousness itself is part of the package of the experience of who I am as the manifest self at Musica. The life force in me, I feel. The God in me, I feel as the entirety of the life force. And I see it and feel it in everybody else that I talk to or communicate with. This takes me out of the ordinary world into what I call the divine world. It's kind of a halfway house between being an ordinary human being and the absolute nothingness from which we all come and to which we all disappear. That's why I say that God realization is the most important spiritual activity that we can encounter. That when you go towards nothingness and the teachings of Robert Adams and Nisargadatta, you're really talking about non-existence as being your source. Out of total non-existence, you arise and you disappear too. And that non-existence is permanent or eternal. It's the other dimensional origin of your existence in this dimension. Well, I hope that straightened everything out for you. You know now everything that you need to know to lead a happy and fulfilled life. So I think we should have some heavy-duty chanting again for about 10 minutes and just let it destroy you. Let it take you away into that different dimension. 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and converse. Take it away, Mark.
Side 2, okay, Muktananda?
Yes. There we go. Does anyone know what's happened to Tove and where she's gone to? She doesn't come anymore.
I was just thinking just before you said that I will message her and ask her where she's gone.
Your mute is on, Edgy.
Michael, why do you hide? Why do you not appear before camera? Same thing with Maxie. Why?
Because I'm laying down. I want to lay down.
So? You think it's disrespectful to see you laying down? Cassie, what do you think of today's satsang?
It just makes me realize how stupid I am.
One among many.
Yeah.
Eddie?
It was good. It's a good reminder that we know nothing, and then when you think you know stuff, you're not right. Like it's a good reminder, like, because it's so easy to think you know stuff, but in reality we don't know anything. So yeah, I liked it a lot.
Jay?
I would only dovetail with what Cassie said in the sense of using the word going dumb as a rock as opposed to being stupid. Stupid is like forever. Dumb is something that you do because my feeling is that I come here and I bullshit for an hour and I don't know anything and I don't feel anything necessarily. And I want to come here and chant. What you did today, I just went somewhere. I listened and then I was gone and then I came back. And as I said once before, sometimes there's a sense that I'm awake asleep or I'm awake wherever I went. But I think that I just have to say that you are my beloved, my Satguru, where you take me, where you did today, where you're, whatever, as a confluence of grace and joy and bliss. Yeah, it's beyond anything that I could imagine. All I can think of is to take the words away and try to go dumb as a rock, to stop thinking, stop reading, stop the chatter in my brain for just a while, to start to realize what resonates in the moment, the now moment, in pure being. My God, what a power! What a lightning bolt of realization! It changes everything, even if it isn't. Even if I haven't had a samadhi, my sense of awareness of where you take me is so powerful. It's just so deep, and I love you, really.
Thank you.
Can't even
Love you
tell you
too.
how much.
I love you too.
Thank you. Bless you.
Ian?
I was just contemplating when you showed us your belly and the lion, and I've been contemplating the whole COVID thing in the last few days, and looking at the massive division of our whole society, which appears to be happening. And there's something when a lion looks at you, and I spent some time in Africa, and I love it. I just love it because it looks at you and it doesn't give a shit about you except as a meal. And there's something of sitting in that space of absolute vulnerability, absolute helplessness. It can take you at any time it wants to if it feels hungry. And that's what your belly did to me today. So it's a very uncomfortable place, but it's also a magnificent place to sit. And I'm finding myself sitting there more and more. And as I sit there, I can't do anything. I can't react. I can't plan. I can't strategize. I just and eventually it becomes that it's just lovely. It's a lovely place to be. Yeah.
Frank? What did you learn in school today?
There's nobody here to learn anything yet. A lot of what you say reflects what my experience is becoming more and more of. And yet while you were talking, the question that kept coming to me and got louder during the chanting is, then what about trust? What about surrender? Who is trusting? Who is surrendering to what? Of course, I had no answer to that at all. And how do I know what is authentic, since nothing is? How do you know how to trust anything? And that's kind of where I am right now. Yes, when I see my patients, I've got all this history and experience and knowledge and stuff I can do, or that gets done through me. I don't know how much I'm doing, but that feels, it's not quite what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when I don't have that to occupy my attention all the rest of the time. Who's trusting what? And what does surrender even mean? And any response you might offer, I gratefully receive.
Sorry, I'm all out of answers.
It's all right. I'm all out of questions apparently too, but I ask them anyway.
Vesselina?
Yes.
What?
Do I have any questions?
No, I didn't ask that. Do you have anything to say?
No, I feel happy right now, delightful. I have nothing to complain about right
Wow.
now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So which university is better? The Satsang University or the medical school you're going to?
I don't know, I mean, I never took it so seriously. I just had to do something with my life, I was forced to just go study something, and I picked that. So the satsang school is better, always been better for me.
Good. Do I pronounce your name Saltanat?
Hello.
Hi.
Huh? I
What do you feel?
I feel nothing. I don't stop thinking my problem. And when when I in satsang, I have more problem, more headache. I don't know. Maybe
You think too much.
yes.
You're always
I think.
concerned with the world and what's going to happen.
Yeah. I thinking very much. Yes, maybe.
Fuck the world.
But
Let
well,
it go. Just relax. Let it fall apart around you. And you can say, wow, look at that. That person has disappeared like Tove. What the fuck happened to her? Where did that person go? What? I'm being kicked out of the house because I haven't made my payments? It doesn't work that way, though. The thing is, the less you work at maintaining your world, the more it seems to take care of itself. Rather than to pay bills, you put yourself on automatic pay for everything. So you're never bouncing checks. It just seems to work out much better when you don't put that much attention into maintaining your place in the world.
mm,
And as Steve wrote me, he's not going to have his semi-annual PSA test to see if his prostate cancer has returned, or get blood tests to see if that's okay too. He says, I don't need the body anymore. Let it do whatever it wants. So now he's relaxing and letting the life force act through him in the way it wants to act through him, rather than him trying to control it. You become a passive observer rather than an active actor or attempted actor. You become a watcher. Spencer.
I'm feeling all right. I always feel relaxed during satsang, but then when you call on me, I feel a tension in my mind as thoughts come in of what should I say. Like I feel like there's some kind of structure I'm supposed to follow when speaking to you, but I don't know what it is. So I'm always speechless, Of course I can talk, but what am I talking about? I guess if it's how I feel, I guess I feel great. It's nice to relax and surrender, like you were saying about Steve, to let everything take care of itself. That's how I feel about myself, because I didn't put my body in motion, or I had nothing to do with my birth. So, it's just, I don't have any control over all those chemical reactions. It can be very stressful to try to control everything, but really I don't think I have any control, because I'm not controlling any of the chemical reactions. So it's better to relax, even when you call on me and want me to say something. So I don't really have anything important to say.
Well, you could say, I agree with Frank and don't say anything more, or I agree or disagree with Michael or with Vesselina,
I agree with
or
everyone.
just say ditto.
I agree with everyone here.
Okay. Now, anybody I haven't called on that wants to say anything, please say it.
Hi, Edgy. I will interrupt the crickets with my very repetitive and predictable commentary about my states. But it seems to me that what I find myself doing is subsiding more and more into the root of who I am. So, for example, at first I relax my body, and eventually I feel like I'm an egg or a sphere of coherent, blissful, lit up energy, like my beingness. And when I go deeper into that feeling, I seem to descend through a kind of tunnel to a place where I'm just a point. And that point is abiding upon itself. And it feels increasingly blissful. It feels like, yes, you've reached it, Mark. This is it. So I'm wondering if, that's considered to be the absolute or whatever, but I am finding my, my non-physical anatomy. I'm getting more acquainted with it and more able to get it to cooperate so that I can reach the deeper states. And the other thing is when I'm out and about, like walking around or doing things, I'm mindful about having it all happen, not just when I'm meditating, but also when I'm going about doing things. Like I carry it with me and I'm mindful of feeding it and allowing it to be there. So that's where I'm at right now.
Feeding what?
Sorry?
What did you say? Feeding?
Yeah, feeding the energy around me, like allowing it to flourish while I'm doing mundane things. Like I'm allowing it to be there all the time, not just when I'm concentrating or meditating or subsiding. I'm wearing it while going about my day-to-day stuff and more conscious of it being there, and it's becoming more present, more of a constant.
Anybody else?
Hi, Chris here.
Hi, Chris.
My heart is pounding. My legs are shaking. My skin is tingling.
Wow.
I've been feeling the last few weeks I was feeling rather calm, but a lot of shit's been just coming up. My ego, emotions, identity, and you really spoke to all that today, and it just stirred me up. And I don't have all the answers, but it just really spoke to me and addressed it, and really just in this. I gotta say, listening to the Muktanan and other chances, it's stirring things up. I mean, I thought I was calmer, but I'm getting all sorts of garbage and crap is coming up. Like I said, ego, identity, all sorts of shit. And I just wanted to let you know that what's going on.
What about you, Bernadette?
I feel exhausted. I feel like this touching was exhausting. My heart's always pounding, but I did think about one thing. It takes effort to be a personality, to be a human, to be a person. Like when I was little and taught, this is your name, this is your address. That takes energy. And so it mustn't really be me. If I have to put in effort to be that, I would like to reverse that. But then I get that fear of the vulnerability you were talking about. So I'm kind of back and forth with that. I don't want to be that person. I'm tired.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Let the identity die. And become totally useless. Like Robert said, good for nothing, man.
I think what Ian said about the lion presence on your shirt was very powerful, because it's sort of like the lion is there every time you step out the door, because the world doesn't give a shit. Any moment can take you off. And that's literally, and it doesn't think about you. It would feed off you and there would be nothing left, a memory, whatever. Even that would be necessarily not necessary or vouched safe. But the thing was, it was actually, it's, yes, Edgy, that's exactly, I feel like lunch. You know, something on that t-shirt is salivating. And I may have to retreat to another room or something or other. Certainly my cat is not going to defend me. She'd be a snack. So, Ian, oh my gosh, look at this. Okay, so now I think Stevie coined it. We're at cat song. Cat sang, not satsang. Okay, I love you all. That was wonderful. Ian, Edgy, Cassie, thank you.
David, you weren't here the whole time, were you?
Yeah, I was not. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
How I feel during satsang. I mainly have two things I feel during satsang. One is kind of a sense of awe that this is even possible, that you're here and doing this, and all of us are on the same intention and vibe and reality and all this. So that's just, it's like continuously being blown away by that. And the second thing I feel is just well, three things, I guess. There's a deep sense of thankfulness and gratitude that's just totally there at every moment. And thirdly, there's an impetus to quicken my my whatever spiritual stuff I'm doing, or surrender, or merging into the one, or whatever you want to call it, to just full 1 billion% ahead on that. So those are the three things that happened for me during this experience.
Anybody else?
Hi, this is Vasilis. Once again, thank you very much for accepting your Sangha. Edward, it's the first time that I speak to you, and thank you again. Just a few words about the Indian chantings that we were listening to before. It just reminded me that the first time that I went to India, the shock that you get as a Westerner as soon as you step your feet on in India is that you have to get rid of your Western attitudes and your Western mind and mingle in the mob, the Indian mob. Otherwise, you will have a rough time. And this is the feeling that I got when I listened to the chantings, that you have to mingle with the sea, become one with the sea, and not a single wave. Otherwise, you're gonna go through rough times. And if you want to have fun and have a good time, you better get one with India, Mother India, and have fun with the rest. Thank you very much. Feels like being in first grade again. we're all dumb here, but we're having fun and we're on the same page, and it's good to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I'm going to assign somebody to take over. We'll let them determine what's going to happen, whether you do more chanting or you do simple conversation or you just go away. And hopefully I'll see you on Wednesday. Friday we have set up with Jay is going to be the DJ on that day for the chanting, for Friday chanting all day, all the entire satsang. So who can I turn the meeting over to? Who does it allow me to? Bernadette and Chris. Bye-bye. I love you all.